Shamali. Ladies and gentlemen, lords, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, thank you all for coming. As I agree with Troy, it's getting a bit cold, and so I think it's a pretty good turnout. You've done very, very well, and thank you indeed. Well done. Tonight's talk, Surviving and Thriving in Paradise, is ostensibly about the 10 years my wife Alice and I spent in Sri Lanka from approximately the year 2000. But it's really also a tale of redemption. They were transformative years for both of us, and certainly led me to become a more thoughtful, less detached, and marginally more responsible person than I was before. For example, I wasn't remotely interested in becoming a father. Far too busy living life to live life for anyone else's. But when it happened, when I finally became a dad at 54, and here's my lovely daughter right in front of you here. Sorry, Steele, it's going to get embarrassing tonight. My eyes were opened, and I finally realised what it was like. Well, I like to describe it as being a bit like a new highway on life's sat-nav. All of a sudden, you've got a completely new direction to focus on, and it is really quite the most wonderful experience. Be that as it may. So that's, as I say, you'll see that the talk embraces aspects of that. But first I thought, for those of you who don't know me, which I'm sure is the very vast majority, here's a bit of background to tonight's talk. Don, you can go to the first slide. My parents were British movie stars, Patricia Rock and Anthony Steele, whose careers blossomed during the 40s and the 50s. I've already been told by one of our members here, more than our members, that he was a big fan of my mother's when you were presumably a younger fellow. But not from your point of view, but why wouldn't you be? They made one film together in 1952 called Something Money Can't Buy, which is there. This is a poster, funnily enough, that my wife gave me when I turned 50. She found on the internet, which I thought was quite amusing. It sits in hangs in our kitchen now. In the late 40s, my mother married her second husband, a French director, and moved to a house near Versailles, just outside Paris, where she was working a lot at the time. And in December 52, I was born on a refectory table of a convent. Honestly. My mother had been trying to get back to England, but had been foiled by 2 weeks of continuous fog, which prevented cars, ferries, no planes, and certainly no pregnant ladies going either way during that period. I think it's the only time it's actually ever been recorded. 2 weeks complete, first time. So my mother's in a cab on the way to hospital, passing through a pretty rural part of the landscape, and suddenly she realised she wasn't going to make it. So the driver pulls over the cab, bangs on 2 heavy wooden doors, which then turn out, as they discover, to be a convent. Sadly, there's no record of the nun's reaction to my very pregnant mother arriving and wanting to give birth, or who helped with the birth. Perhaps it was the Mother Superior, but no record. My mother and I soon moved to Rome. Here we are in Rome Zoo. A little bit chubbier in those days, notwithstanding. I know you can see, but trust me. But we only came to England when I was 4, as Shamali intimated. And then it took years to become a British naturalised Brit, I should say. As it turned out, I had a French father. I was born in Paris. You get the picture. Virtually impossible to do that in those days. Probably not that much easier anymore either, to be honest. But when I finally did become a British citizen, it was good news, because it meant whenever I returned to France, I wouldn't be faced with involuntary enrolment in the Camel Corps or Foreign Legion, which I was quite pleased to avoid, to be honest. Anyway, I guess I've had an interesting life, although not always an easy one. Along the way, I've made and lost good friends, pots of money, and unforgivably, on occasion, even my sense of humour. But I've always found what got me back on track was travel. You can never learn too much from travel, though there are, of course, risks attached. But I digress. Here's a tale about discovering your identity. As I said, I would try and fit you in there. You see, I look not remotely like photos of the Frenchman, so I occasionally wondered, as well you might, who my real father was. The Frenchman had died when I was 3, so it didn't feature at all. but the rest of my childhood is populated by memories of a series of walk-on, charming uncles. We are talking about the movie industry here. So I guess I was otherwise engaged and my interest slipped. Here, for example, is a picture of my mother and the future, Alison? 40th President of the United States, when they were briefly an item in Hollywood and she reputedly saved him from suicidal thoughts after his divorce from Jane Wyman. He proposed, she declined. So I missed out on becoming a White House brat. But my mother at least got to joke later that had it not been for she and Ronnie, not Mrs. T and Ronnie, the world may well have not been saved from Soviet domination.